Hi, good evening, and welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 436, and we'll be starting in a minute here. We're going to wait and see who needs to pop over from the pre-chat room. I've got baby Bjorn here. You want to say hi? Do you want to say hi? He's been scared. We've had terrible storms all day today, and the lightning and thunder scare him to pieces. You ready to go now? You ready to go? Poor baby. If you're joining me live, please say hello. I know it takes a few seconds for people to pop over from the pre-chat room, or maybe we're not going to get comments tonight. We'll see what happens. Anyway, welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 436, and we are live in Southwest Florida in the evening. Hi Vera, thanks for joining live. It is a very stormy day here. You may have seen from the Weather Channel or wherever you watch your news. Hi Renee and Diane and Jackie from Michigan. Thanks for joining live. There's a big storm in the Gulf of Mexico, and although it's not coming here, we're still getting a lot of weather because of it. Hi Donna and Lily and Martha and Nikki. Thanks for joining live. So glad you could be here. Hi Dawn, glad you could be here. Good evening. Hi Judy, thanks for joining live. I've got a couple more foundation oval techniques to share with you tonight. I'm going to show you some increasing technique, and I'm going to show you some fringe technique with the foundation oval. It's going to be a lot of fun and just extenuating on everything we've talked about in the last couple of days. Hi Lily, thanks for joining live. May have missed some names, sorry about that, but so glad you all could be here. And for those of you that will end up watching the recorded version, which I have to say, most people do end up watching the recorded version. I think that's fantastic that we can do both live and recorded. I love that YouTube does that. Hello to everybody who will be watching recorded, and please also feel welcome to leave comments and say hello. I love replying to all of those as well. Hi Jennifer and Lydia and Dawn. Dawn, I'm so glad this time works for you. I noticed that some people like the morning and some like the evening, and it's fun for me to have a little variety in my week. So until further notice, we'll try doing this a couple different times throughout the week. It's kind of fun. If it doesn't work, we'll change it, but for the summer, it just seems like something fun to spice things up. All right, well, welcome back to Create, Share, Inspire podcast. This is episode 436. Can you believe it? We are a third of the way from 400 to 500. Crazy, hard to imagine. I couldn't possibly remember all 436 episodes, but it is pretty exciting. And yeah, I just love seeing that number keep going up, and I love seeing all of you here every day. Love hearing from all of you in the comments. It's just so wonderful. And tonight I'm going to be sharing, we're going to keep going on the foundation oval conversation that we started 2 days ago and continued on yesterday. And today we're going to talk even more about it. And seriously, we're still not touching on everything I could talk about foundation ovals, but it is a great foundation, no pun intended, on the technique. And so the first day we talked about the different sizes you could use and and all the different ways you can use it. I showed you examples of garments that used foundation ovals in different ways. And we talked about how to decide what size foundation oval you need for the project that you're doing. So whether you needed a multiple of 3, 4, or 5, we went into that quite a bit. Then yesterday I did a demo showing you how to crochet into both, well, we made the foundation ovals again, and then I showed you how to crochet into both sides of the foundation oval if you wanted to do a symmetrical project that worked from the center out, which also mimicked some of the projects that we showed samples of the day before as well. So I feel like we've gone over a ton of stuff already, but tonight I thought it would be fun to show you how to do some increases within foundation ovals, which could be used in a number of ways. whether you're doing any type of project that needed increasing, or imagine if you started a shawl right here and made a triangle that just grew and grew with these little scalloped edges. By adding a foundation oval, we're having the ability to add 3 stitches each time we do it because we're using the chain 3 double crochet foundation oval. Depending on the size of foundation oval you use, you'd be increasing by however number of stitches you wanted to add into that oval. So when I use a chain 3 double crochet foundation oval, in my mind I'm thinking that I'm going to add 3 stitches to that. So for this sample, I'm increasing by 3 stitches at the end of each row where I'm adding that foundation oval. So I'm going to show you how to do one with the yarn just facing you right now. If you need more tutorial help on how to do double crochets or foundation ovals, I would highly recommend watching either of those stitch videos in my How to Crochet stitch video library, which has tons of stitch videos, and each video is one specific stitch shown right hand, left hand, and slow motion. So if you need a refresher on any of that, that's the place to check those out. Tonight I'm going to be showing you how to do an increase in this. So we're at the end of the row here, and I'm going to add a foundation oval by doing a chain 3 and then double crochet into the 3rd chain from my hook. Now, at first glance, that looks like it could be the beginning of a cluster stitch for the beginning of the next row, right? It could actually be something that would be vertical as part of the next row. But how I work into this is going to be how it ends up laying flat. So now that I did that foundation oval, at the end of my row I did chain 3 and double crochet into the 3rd chain from the hook. I'm now going to chain 3, which counts as my first double crochet. I'm going to turn my whole work here, and now working into the foundation oval itself, work 3 double crochets into it. And just the act of doing this and working into the side of it has now started turning that foundation oval from looking like a cluster stitch at the beginning of the next row to turning it on its side and making it a foundation for increase of stitches for the next row. Can you see that? So now as I continue on and work all of the stitches in this next row, we have firmly established that foundation oval as a horizontal addition carrying the increased stitches. Isn't that interesting? So just the act of doing it alone made it look like a cluster stitch, which would have been just a vertical stitch added to the beginning of the row. But by adding a chain 3 and working into the side of it, we push it on its side so that it becomes the increase. Isn't that fascinating? So without doing that treatment to it, it would have stayed vertical, but by adding that chain 3 and working the stitches into the foundation oval, it forces it to move, to turn on its side and become the foundation for increases for the next row. So you could do that at the beginning or end of any row, depending on how you're looking at it. It's either the beginning of the next row or the end of the last row. Either way you look at it, what you're doing is adding new stitches where there weren't stitches before. And if you're looking to add more than, say, 1 or 2 stitches where you would just add an extra double crochet to those stitches, this is a great way to add a bunch of new stitches, and also a great way to add a scallop. It actually adds a design detail to it as well. So think of all the different ways you could add that design detail to a project. Let's say you're going to do a side-to-side skinny shawlette. That would be a great way to add increases and decreases as you're going. Or let's say you're doing a bottom-up triangular shawl. Another great way to add that stepping of scallops along the sides. There's lots of different ways you could, if you were going to do a raglan shaped pullover or cardigan in pieces that you were going to seam instead of do seamlessly, this would also be a very cute treatment for that. Does anybody have any questions about the increase? At the end of this row, I'll show you how to add more than one foundation oval to create a more exaggerated increase. But while I'm doing this, I will look at comments and see if there's any questions so far. And for anybody interested, the yarn I'm using tonight is Be So Tender, which is my number 4 worsted weight organic cotton that has a beautiful thick and thin texture to it. Yeah, it definitely gives a design element of that scalloped edge, which is something to consider if you're looking for that kind of an edge. Yeah, a twisted fringe would look great on here. Yes, Lydia, twisted fringe would look great on anything, but yes, it would look great on here too. And then after I finish this specific tutorial on increases, I'm going to show you how to make fringe in foundation ovals as well, which is a great way that you could add beads to a project too. I did not bring beads out to show you that tonight, but perhaps I could do that tomorrow if we continue on talking about fringe in foundation ovals. But tonight I'll do the basics. I actually have 2 different types of fringe to show you with this. Well, Cherie, I'm so glad you found me live. Glad you could be here. Okay, so now on this row, I'm going to do something different. Obviously, if we were going to continue on with this as a pattern, we'd just do one foundation oval at the beginning of each row to continue on with this beautiful scallop. But let's say you want to do something totally different. Let's say that you are working you made a left front of a top and you're working on, let's say you made the right front, you're working on the left front, and you need to make some increases to go across and join the 2. To do that, you're going to need more than one foundation oval. Let's see, could we even just join these as we do it? We could. Or let's say you just want to do lots of increases for any number of reasons. I'm going to show you how you would add multiple foundation ovals here. So our first, we're at the end of the row, chain 3, double crochet in the 3rd chain from your hook. Let's say we're going to add 3, or let's say you're going to do underarm shaping. Or if you're going to add stitches for underarm, we did this on the Sweet Clara top, and we've done this on a bunch of other patterns as well. So chain 3, double crochet in the 3rd chain from your hook. Then to make another one, we just continue on right where we left off. Chain 3, double crochet in the 3rd chain from your hook. There's a bunch of different ways to apply something like this. Like I said, if you're going to do the beginning of a neck part, if you're going to do underarm joining, or just adding a bunch of increases. So now we have 3 foundation ovals added, and if you're looking at it, it looks like you've added something vertical, but as we turn our work now and work into the side of this, it'll force it to lay flat horizontally. So we're chain 3 and working in the side of the foundation ovals. We're going to work 3 double crochets into each foundation oval, working across until we get to the beginning of the last row worked before the ovals. Well, bye, Renee. Glad you could join for any time that you could. If you want to watch the rest of these tutorials, you can watch the recorded version later tonight, tomorrow, or anytime it suits you. They stay recorded on my channel infinitely. I get comments from any number of the 436 episodes. I get comments all the way back down to the first episode still, which is kind of cool. Thanks, Renee. Okay, almost back to the beginning of the row, and I'll be able to show you when I finish this now. Okay, so we've worked into the side of those 3 foundation ovals, and you can see now our work is horizontal, and we can continue on working into the row of stitches as well. And what happens is we've now just created a larger, whoops, worked in the same stitch twice. Now we've just created a larger increase at the beginning of this row, which could be another type of a design element for a shawl. The more increases you put into something, the more shallow and wide it grows. So this could also be a beautiful way to do increases in a side-to-side shawlette or in a bottom-up construction triangular shawl. Great place to put And then if you're going to do extra increases like that, you might not want to do it on every row. You might switch to every second row, every third row, every fourth row, depending on how frequently you want the increases to happen, and depending on how steep you want your angles to be, because obviously the angle of your triangle is going to change drastically when you go from adding 3 stitches to adding 9 stitches in your increase rows. So things to consider for sure. How fun would it be to alternate these two, doing little scallops and longer scallops, or maybe graduating them, doing a 3, a 6, and a 9, and then back to a 3, a 6, a 9. I like the, oh, thanks, Stacy. Yeah, you know what? Everybody likes variety, right? And for me, in the summertime, I just felt like I needed a little variety too. So I'm very happy to see other people enjoying the variety as well. Sometimes life gets routine, right? Need a little excitement. I know I like a little excitement sometimes. Don't really get it when you work all the time, but that's all right. Thanks, Nikki. It's been storming here for days. Oh, we're out of yarn for this one. Well, that tells me it's time to start the other tutorial. So let's go on. So we finished the increase section, and now let's go back to the other side of the foundation ovals where we worked into the opposite side of the foundation ovals. Remember we did that yesterday? And this time I'm going to show you how to do fringe in 2 different ways. Okay, so let's see. All right, so there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can do foundation ovals as a simple strip and fasten it off and weave in that loose end, or you can do a continuous strip and make them into big loops. So let's do that both ways. I'm going to grab my scissors first because I'm going to do the simple strip one first. And you may say, oh, well, that gives me lots of loose ends to weave in, which could also be a benefit. Think about this. If you're going to do the simple one where you just make your foundation ovals for a length of fringe and then fasten off, that tail could be used for adding a bead to the end of the fringe. Wouldn't that be pretty too? So let's do, and you could do these in any size. We were doing chain 3 double crochet. Let's do chain 4 treble crochet here. So chain 4, treble crochet is yarn over twice, insert your hook into the 4th chain from your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and through 2. Got 1 foundation oval. Chain 4, yarn over twice, insert your hook into the 4th chain from your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, through 2, and through 2. Chain 4. I'm going to do a total of 5 foundation ovals here for the simple fringe. There's 3. And try to look at the comments and see if I can answer any questions while I'm doing this. I've done this several times for fringe on different projects, and it turns out so beautiful. I love it. This would be a great place for adding a bead into the middle of these too. I'll show you where I think you would add it. I would add it into the middle of the chain side. All right, so there we have 1 piece of fringe dangling down. And now with that tail, what I think you could do is take a rather chunky bead, even it wouldn't have to be small. You could do a bigger bead and thread it right onto your tail, secure it to the end of this, and then weave it and secure it with a couple of knots, then weave in your tail up into the fringe. Wouldn't that be gorgeous? I would love to see a big ball bead at the bottom here. Maybe even a wooden bead would be beautiful with this you know, organic cotton that's chunky and has that thick and thin texture. I think it might be really beautiful and rustic to put a wooden bead on the end of that. I think it'd be super pretty. So there's one way to do the fringe, and I just think the texture is beautiful. I think the thickness is gorgeous, and you've got absolutely no yarn fraying or shedding or anything like that, because it is a solid piece of stitch work, not loose thread. So it's not going to tangle like fringe either. It holds itself together, but has that gorgeous texture. I did this as fringe on a wall hanging mandala this year, and it's supposed to come out in a magazine hopefully soon, and when it does, I'll get to show you a sample of how beautiful this fringe looks. It's hanging down with beads on a mandala, and so pretty. I've done it on a shawl before that was published somewhere, I can't remember where, one of my 800 patterns that I've published in my design career, but something I definitely like to work on more for the pattern collection for my yarns. And you'll probably see this done with beads in one or two of the next projects that I implement it in, because I think it's such a great way to add a beautiful fringe texture without adding all of the negatives of fringe. You know, when you use regular fringe that's cut yarn, you have fraying, you have tangling. It can be somewhat difficult to maintain for the lifetime and the wear of a project. So whether you do my twisted fringe technique, which is amazing for washing and drying and staying put together and not shedding or fraying, this would be another example of an amazing way to add a fringe element without having those negative side effects either. So there's two ways that I like to do this. I forgot, I was going to mention the beads as well. So we said we could bead down here. I think you could also bead in the middle of this by slipping a bead into the middle chain of whatever size chain you're doing in the middle of the foundation oval, which would maybe pop the bead right into the center oval. Wouldn't that be fantastic? But then the other technique is to do a loop of fringe. So what you're going to want to do is, however long you want your fringe, you're going to do twice as much length plus one more, so that it has a turning loop, so that as we make it loopy, we've got one in the center here. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to do this size fringe in a loopy version, I would do 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. Oh, you know what else I forgot to mention about foundation ovals? I do these for ties on sweaters and capes all the time too. And I do this for belts. We forgot to mention that as well. Like I said, there's a gazillion ways to use foundation ovals. But before we go any further, let's do a looped fringe. So we're going to take our yarn now, tie it back onto our hook. And the good thing about the loopy fringe is that we don't have to cut the yarn between fringes, which, like I said, is both a negative and a positive on this one, because that tail could be a fabulous excuse for adding a bead, but it also is an extra end that you have to weave in. So let's join our yarn for the loopy fringe, which now will be done with one continuous piece of yarn, and we won't need to cut between fringe. And we're going to do 11 foundation ovals. So we're going to do the chain 4 treble crochet into the 4th chain from your hook, and we'll do that 11 times now. And while I count out 11 of these, if you have any questions for me, go ahead and ask them, and if I can answer them live, I will be happy to do so. Because it will take me a minute here to get 11. There's 3. Yeah, I don't even think I could count how many times I've used the foundation ovals as belts. I love this as a belt or a tie or a corset tie on something. I love the detail of this. It's way more substantial than a chain or something like that, and just has that beautiful beaded look to it. It looks like it looks beaded by itself, right? Just that texture is so pretty. It's scalloped on both sides, which I like to think of as looking like beads, like a string of beads, but yarn. And soft and cushy and beautiful, and so easy to make. Let's see, where are we? I don't think I'm at 11. So when you add the bead, I think you would add it to the chain side sandshell. Yeah, if you were going to add a bead, I would add it to the center. So if you're doing 5 chains, I would put it on the 3rd. This is chain 4, so I would put it between the second and the third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, not nice, baby Bjorn. 2, 3, 4, 9. We're almost there. Went a little faster than I thought. 10, 2, 3, 4, and treble. I didn't do that right. One more time. Yeah, I've done this as belts many times, Sandshell. You'll see it, if you look back in my patterns that have belts, like some of the belted capes, I've done this a gazillion times. This is my favorite way to do a belt. You know, a simple belt that ties. It holds its shape when you tie it in a knot or a bow. It doesn't get all wonky. You know how sometimes knitted belts can get a little wonky? This doesn't. It's easy to tie and maintain its shape when you unstry it. Yep, that's fine, Holly. We're going to continue on with foundation ovals. I feel like I have not talked enough about the different ways. So tomorrow I'll bring beads and do that too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11. Okay, so now we're ready to, we have our 11. We're going to slip stitch into each of the next 2 stitches. And now we would begin our next one. But I wanted to show you that by measuring to make sure that we had our 5 to make it the same length as the other one, and then adding one for the turn, look it ends up being the exact same length as the other fringe. Isn't that beautiful? So imagine doing a whole length of these across. It would be beautiful and seamless, and it would be looped and would have no extra yarn. And if you used the beading in the chain side of the foundation oval, you could actually get the beaded look that you would get on this one if you did it into the middle of that center foundation, the center chain of the center foundation oval of the looped version. So doing a looped version of the foundation oval fringe would give you that beautiful fringe look, and it would be without cutting yarn whatsoever. Be a great design element for a shawl, for the end of a scarf. And this is something that could still go in the washer and dryer and not tangle at all, not fray, not shed, not anything. So super duper simple. Has that beautiful beaded look because of the scallop on both ends, and adds such a simple and beautiful design element to any kind of a project that you'd like to add some fringe or some dangles to. And don't forget to add beads, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'll bring a couple of different beads, and we will and I'll talk about the different ways we can add beads to it. Yes, Vera, I think watching the video again would be wonderful. Now, would anybody like to pick a number between 1 and 5? And if so, I will choose one of the Create, Share, Inspire notebooks and randomly pick a quote. Judy said number 2. It's the first number I saw. One of my favorites. I don't know why I say that. I love all of these sunsets. They all have a story to me. I remember specifically the day I took all of these photos, but this was my birthday photo with my friend, and I always will remember this one so fondly. It was my first birthday without Marlon, and she took me to dinner at the Ritz-Carlton in Naples, which was so fancy and beautiful, and we sat outside at the restaurant called Gumbo Limbo and watched the sunset and had a nice little dinner. Had an amazing salsa that night too. It was so good. All right, so let's randomly pick a quote. Okay, this one is from Helen Keller. Keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see a shadow. How awesome is this? This is such a good reminder to always stay focused and always look forward to the positive, right? The negative is surrounding us all the time, and we have the choice every day on what we want to focus on. We have the choice every day to be happy, to be positive, to look at the brighter side. And as long as you're always staying focused on the positive, the negatives are always going to be there, but they're not as focused. They're not as prominent if you're always focusing on something good. And just like we've talked about before, when you're super stressed out about something, it's not necessary to force yourself to think positive about that thing. All you have to do is think about something positive. So let's say you're super worried about paying your bills this month. You don't have to force yourself to think of a way to pay those bills this month. Think of a purring kitten. Think of a puppy wagging his tail because he's so happy to see you. Think about unicorns or mermaids or rainbows or a baby that's laughing from his belly. Anything that brings you joy, focus on those things, and you'll see that your mood will change, your mood will lighten, and as you get more positive and lighten, you attract more good into your life. I know it sounds corny, but it absolutely works. So, touching on that a little more broadly, let's listen to Helen Keller's amazing quote again. Keep your face to the sunshine and you cannot see a shadow. And that is literally true too, right? If you're looking at the sun, the shadows are behind you. It's not physically possible to see the shadows when you're facing the sunshine. Love that. What an amazing quote from someone so inspiring and so powerful as Helen Keller. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy evenings to spend a few minutes with me. I hope you enjoyed the stormy, spooky look and feel of my backyard tonight. Seeing baby Bjorn for a couple of seconds, chatting with me and everyone else here and all the different ways we talked about foundation ovals. And maybe tomorrow we'll even go into beading with foundation ovals. I think it's going to be super fun, but that will be tomorrow. And tomorrow the podcast will be in the morning at 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.